Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here today, and I've got a very special guest all the way from Chicago to have a chat with us. Jean Kloker's joining us today, and I'm super excited to hear her story and chat to her about all things Amazon. Hi, Jean. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Great to be here. However, I'm 250 miles from Chicago, so.
Yeah, but we're thousands of miles from you, so that's only like half an inch.
In Nowhereville, Illinois. Very, very small.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, and I'm excited to hear all about your Amazon journey. So tell us a little bit about you and how long you've been selling on Amazon and when you got started and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. I have been in business for myself in some form or another all of my adult life. I did go to college. I got a degree in elementary education. And when I did my student teaching, I said to my husband, I would be in trouble every day of the world here. So I don't work well for others.
Yeah.
With myself, there's nowhere to quit. So anyhow, I've had my own retail store. I've been in real estate forever. I started doing Amazon a little over 11 years ago. And it's changed so much since. It's still kind of the same basic concept. It happened that I got involved shortly after Amazon started the third-party seller FBA program, where you send your inventory into their warehouses.
Yeah.
And they market it. They sell it.
Yeah.
And it's, the thing is, it's always there. I've as a moderator on a big forum with other Amazon sellers, one of the common things is that people will say, oh, Amazon's trying to get rid of all their third-party sellers, or they're doing this or that. And I say, if Amazon wants to get rid of their third-party sellers, they're going to send everybody a letter, say, you got 90 days to get your stuff out of our warehouses. We're done. They don't have to play games.
No.
So, and currently, more than 50% of their annual sales come through third-party sellers. So sometimes people talk about, oh, Amazon's on this great big business. Well, somewhere up in the upper levels they are, but the vast majority of people are mom and pop sellers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Which really is an incredibly brilliant idea. And I don't know whether Jeff Bezos came up with it himself or what, but the idea that they had developed this fantastic platform, and then they invited us to sell our products there and be processed, shipped, and handled by their warehouse, multiplied the number of items that are available for sale and their revenue tremendously.
Yeah.
So some people say, oh, well, why would they do that? Because they could sell it. Well, yeah, but they didn't have to buy any of this stuff.
Absolutely.
So, right. And they've had their ups and downs over the years. One of the biggest deals happened about the time the Disney Frozen items, the Frozen movie.
Yeah.
They got taken in by a bunch of Chinese counterfeiters. Amazon bought a lot of that merchandise and got caught with it. So they sort of overreacted and kind of started dinging everybody, meaning third-party sellers, and creating blocks and issues that they didn't really need to. But that's been something they are constantly trying to be on guard against, is counterfeit merchandise.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good thing because none of us want that on the platform, because it damages everybody's business.
Exactly. But it's challenging. I don't know how they could do it better, but sometimes another seller will report you for selling counterfeit merchandise. Yeah. And unfortunately, at this moment in time, you're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent, which I don't think is quite fair, but that's just part of being in business. You got to figure out how to manage the bumps.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I agree with you. It's not the fairest thing, but I guess Amazon say it's so important to them and their reputation that they're gonna just take the hard line on it, aren't they?
And they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
do you still have lots of other businesses, or do you just focus on Amazon now?
I pretty much focus on Amazon now. The interesting thing and a good thing about Amazon was that I got involved in going on the road to sell some things. And I really, really like it because I'm a real people person and I really enjoyed that. But it was really costly. But I was able to kind of set my Amazon business on the back burner on simmer. But when I was ready to go back to it, I mean, I never quit, but back to it and focus on it, it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. You must have like a completely open account as well. For having sold on there for like 11 years, you must be ungated in just about absolutely everything there is to be
Well, not
ungated.
everything, but a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really not sure the few things, brands, and this is primarily like sporting goods, like North Face, Under Armour, and New Balance are three brands that I'm like, what's the deal here? But but there's enough other stuff. I really realize that early new sellers are constantly going, oh, I'm gated and everything. Well, no, you're not. I mean, but there's so much that you can sell on this platform that you just need to kind of steer away from the big brands initially,
Yeah.
build up some account reputation with Amazon, and continually reapply. You know, it doesn't take much to click over to the thing and try again. And
Yeah.
every now and then you're like, I'm open in that.
Oh,
I mean,
fantastic.
back in the day, I paid people to set up ungating things for me.
Yeah.
But that's not really effective anymore, and you can get in big trouble doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to do it absolutely 100% by the book for sure.
Yep.
Like, I guess now Amazon have got a lot more sellers than they had when you joined 11 years ago. So there's a lot more people, trying it on a bit. So they're a lot stricter with their processes, like ungating and such like, than they used to be.
Well, when I first, literally 11 years ago, I thought Amazon sold books. I mean, that is how out of it I was. And I just, wow. Oh, okay. I talked to my brother, who is an attorney in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yes, I order from Amazon all the time. And I said, okay, well, what's the thinking? And he said, well, look at it this way. He said, it doesn't matter how much money a person makes. The one thing you can never get more of is time. And so ultimately, it's time saving. And that made sense to me because the first 6 months, my sister and I worked together. So we would, and it was retail arbitrage. You went out into the stores and scanned, and it was wonderful that we had some programs that helped with that. But we'd be looking at, why would anybody pay this much money for this when they could go down to Walmart and get it?
Yeah.
And after that, I didn't care. I mean, I buy from Amazon all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I'm buying items that I'm paying tons of, increase in price, but people do.
Yeah.
And the point is, that's the reason, because it's time saving.
Yeah. So
and of course,
convenient.
after the pandemic, there were many people in the Amazon seller world who were perfectly positioned because they had lots of that sort of item. Personal items, health and beauty, things like that. Already that was their business. So many people commented, we're doing more than we did in Q4.
Yeah.
That wasn't my case because that wasn't the kind of areas I happened to be in, but it didn't fall apart for me.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that is so important is, just start slow, go slow, and you don't need to get involved in, with some guru that's going to charge you thousands of dollars to so-called show you the ropes. Maybe it will help you, but you don't need to do that. I know personally people who literally had a couple $100 when they started.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference, huge difference. So there are plenty of people online and around who are willing to help you answer questions, kind of, I don't know, teach you the ropes, and you will make mistakes. You will make plenty of mistakes. You just keep going.
Yeah.
Kind of go an inch deep and a mile wide as you kind of get a feel for what works for you and what doesn't work for you and what's gated or not gated. It's a journey. It's definitely a journey.
Yeah.
If I had a caveat, I constantly hear people going, well, I'm going to start and I'm going to do private label. Okay. That is not where I would be. That is not easy and requires a whole lot more depth and a whole lot more work than anything that I would do.
Yeah.
I personally am I'm 100% online arbitrage.
Yeah.
I'm involved with, I have a team of 4 VAs in the Philippines who give me daily lists, and I'm partnered with another guy, and we have our lists together.
Yeah.
I have all that I have money to buy on those lists.
Yeah.
And now some people would order and have things sent directly to a prep center. They never see it. They never touch it. They never get a box to their house. And which, of course, anyone overseas who is going to be selling on Amazon.com is going to have to do that.
Yeah.
But why not? It's a viable a business plan, and it works. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Do you use a prep center, or you're prepping yourself?
I do not prep myself, but my prep center is my sister, who is across the road.
Perfectly handy.
She likes doing it, and so I pay her to do it. I do not like doing it. And I will say this, I would encourage people to find someone to help you.
Yeah.
One thing about your own business, I don't care whether it's Amazon or whatever it is, there are certain things that only you can do.
Yeah.
And if you have yourself physically tied up with a lot of little things that someone else could easily do, then you're not concentrating on the ideas and innovation that are uniquely your responsibility.
Yep.
Now, see, my sister and I see totally differently on that, which is how come we ended up each having our own Amazon business. She doesn't see any reason why anyone would pay someone to pack boxes and ship. Okay, go for it. I do, because while I'm doing that, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, very, very wise words from an extremely experienced seller. Definitely. Very, very wise words. Absolutely, 100%. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, what do your neighbours think you do for a living? But they know, don't they? Because it's your sister.
Yes. Well, here's a thing that was a biggie in a lot of forums in the early years, and people still say that. Oh, when you're in the store and you're shopping and people ask you, what do you do? And people would say, oh, they all try to come up with all these. And I'm like, I just told them. I mean, but I think there was a mentality of, well, you don't want anyone to know what you do, because then a whole bunch of people will start doing it, and that'll be too much. And that's easy to understand why you might think that. But I realize that even now, I cannot wrap my head around the immensity that is the Amazon platform. It's never going to be too many. For instance, if I literally, at this one Toys R Us, frequently somebody would ask me, and I'd even stand there and explain to them how I do it. But this is just the story of entrepreneurship. A lot of people would like to be in business for themselves, but they are not entrepreneurs. It's sort of a gut thing.
Yeah.
And if you're an entrepreneur, you're always trying something. You're always getting an idea and trying things out. But the one thing you've learned is that you're going to make mistakes. And the most important one is that you have to be able to pivot, because things are going to come up all the time. And they may not be great. but you can't spend an inordinate amount of time and emotional energy on that thing. You figure out what you're going to do right now, what you're going to do to get around the bump in the road, and you pivot and go on. And if you don't, you're just going to be wasting a lot of time and energy that costs you money. So, but people still, well, early on, my sister and I sold tons of sippy cups and pacifiers. And here we be at Babies R Us, 2 full carts of that stuff. Do you guys own a big daycare or what? Nope. And this was another lesson I learned early on. There was a particular brand of pacifier, and it came in a 2-pack. And Toys R Us, Babies R Us frequently had them buy 1 pack, get the 2nd pack half price. I don't even remember what the brand is now, but it was selling for $25 a 2-pack. I mean, pacifiers. And one night, I mean, we were like, every morning you'd get up and go, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. And one morning we had this 2 2-packs. So it made like an order of 4. And it was like $50, $60, and it was overnighted. And it was from in New York City. And I said, you know what happened there? About 1 in the morning. The order was about 1 in the morning. I said, you can figure that picture right there. Couldn't find the pacifier, and the baby's screaming. We're like, we're going to have these right now.
Yeah. Whatever it costs.
Get them shipped to my house.
Yeah.
You know, you never know. We had one interesting item that was a closeout. And apparently people are extremely attached to their laxatives.
Right. Okay.
Go figure. It was a brand, and I don't know whether the packaging or flavoring or whatever was being discontinued, but I mean, there were boxes, packages, okay, packages about that high, and we resold them up to literally $100 a piece.
Wow.
We bought them for $20, and okay, we happened to be in Florida for a funeral, my brother and sister and I, who all do Amazon, and we would get out they were at like CVS's and Walgreens. So on the way home, we hunted down, there's an app that you can use that shows you how many of a given item is at a given store. And we'd pull up outside that store, one of us would run in and clear the shelf. And so we came home with over 100 of them in the back of the car, and till we sold them all out. But like I said, okay, if that's the one you want, we'll get it for you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and those things will happen. You just don't know. When you come across it, you take advantage of it until it's not around anymore.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a question. If you could go back in time to your 21-year-old self, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Interesting, because I have considered that type of thing recently. I'm 65 now, and it gets here a lot quicker than you ever imagined. I was married then to the same guy, and my husband and I could not even have, it just seemed like it was so far out there, you know, and I would just say, you know, look ahead and know that it's coming, and make decisions accordingly.
Yeah, it goes much quicker than you think.
Oh, definitely.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Okay, so let me ask you another question. Would you consider yourself a spender, a saver, or an investor? As a true entrepreneur, which one do you think you are?
I'm a spender.
You're a spender.
My husband's a saver. People who are opposites marry all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeps it interesting.
That out. Yeah, he's like, well, we might need some of that someday, you know. I'm like, yeah, well, and when you're this age, you're kind of going, okay, someday is here. I tend to be more of a spender, but I'm also, I don't know if you've ever read a book called 5 Love Languages. One of them is it's worth reading because it helps you understand anybody close to you in your life that we speak love in different ways. And sometimes we're even with our, like my spouse, he doesn't speak the same language I speak. His primary love language is words of affirmation. He needs to be affirmed and appreciated verbally. Some people it's quality time. Can you hear him?
Only a little bit. Keep going. It's fine. It's nice to have a dog around.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm a spender. He's a saver, and we managed.
So if you woke up tomorrow and someone had put $100,000 in your bank for you to invest, what would you invest it in? Would you invest it in Amazon stock, or would you do something different?
Okay, at this point in my life, I would probably put half of it in our investment accounts, and I would definitely, but I would set up some teams. I would use some of that funding to set up teams of people to do some of the processes. And that's really, really important. And I'm sure you know that because you guys have teams. Yeah. You cannot do everything yourself.
No.
And do it well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely,
so,
you can't.
Yeah. So let's say you're starting Amazon and you're building. First thing you're going to want to do as soon as you feel like you can is either use a prep center or hire a trustworthy teenager to do your packing.
Yeah.
And getting things ready to ship. As you build, then you still need to develop a team of people. Do you have time? See, this is the reason I developed virtual assistants to do the sourcing, because even though I have to still go through everything on their list myself and decide, does that fit what I want? Does that meet my criterion? So I'm still sourcing, I'm still checking, but at least it's not from scratch.
Absolutely.
And like I said, at this point, I could spend every dime I had every day just on the list that I have.
Yeah, that's a lovely position to be in, isn't it? It's a great position to be in. It's great. So I guess BuyBot Pro helps you with your sourcing.
Oh, tremendously. It is a tool that I would not want to be without. And I have used many, many tools over the last 11 years. Yeah. There are there's only one other one that I still use, which I don't need to because of BuyBot Pro, but I'm so used to seeing it on my page. I use RevSeller. It's just on my page. There it is. But now I think, it's just something that's an automatic, okay, I go right to it. Every buy that I go through on the list, I put in there, bring it up, go through everything. And there's honestly way more on there than I can even process myself. Yeah. So, and you guys keep adding more and more. And I'm always like going, oh, wow. So, yes. And I think it's incredibly reasonably priced because I've spent a whole lot more money on tools that haven't been nearly as helpful.
Yeah. But yeah, we've got a long list of features going in. Yeah, we're never going to stop. So
I keep seeing that. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's exhausting trying to keep up with it. But no, truly, it's just once you start using it and you got a feel for it. In other words, you kind of know how you're using it and you're going along. It becomes just almost automatic, at least the main stuff. And really, you do. I mean, like if occasionally I log into my Amazon account and the BuyBot Pro thing doesn't come up on the right-hand side of the page, I'm like, wait a minute, what's happened? Is that off on the bar at the top, or are they out, or what's going on? Because I feel like I can't move ahead with my sourcing day without it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad it's had such a beneficial, great benefit in your business.
I recommend it to everybody. Do you have BuyBot Pro? Well, you need it.
I definitely agree with that sentiment. Absolutely.
Yes, and that's just my honest feeling about it. I don't know how long has it been. 2 years?
I think it's probably coming up for 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just got to have it. That's the way I look at it. So
yeah, absolutely. So what keeps you up at night worrying about your Amazon business? What are the biggest challenges that you think sellers face selling on Amazon, or you face?
well, once you get some of this basic stuff in your just kind of part of your automatic thing where you've been doing it a while, you've been sourcing, you kind of have a handle on how to do it. The biggest things I think are to me are, which right now I think of as annoyances, and I've never been suspended, but are somebody saying that you're violating trademark or a counterfeit item because I don't know how to prove otherwise.
Yeah,
Really, and you're like, it's exasperating
yeah,
because I'm like, okay, I here's a listing. It was already there. Every piece of information, pictures, whatever, was already on the page, and a dozen other people are selling it. I just listed against it. How does that make my item
yeah,
counterfeit? So I suppose people would say their biggest worry is getting suspended. And it
yeah,
hasn't happened, but sometimes it's kind of random. It feels like it's kind of random.
yeah.
So I honestly don't worry a lot about it, but if I had a concern, that would be it.
Yeah, I think having sold on Amazon for 11 years, I think no one's safe, but that you've built
Right.
up a real reputation with Amazon, haven't you? They're not going to just quickly accuse you. They're going to at least think about it for a few minutes before they do it. So
Hopefully, yes.
it won't
You
stop
think,
them doing
okay,
it.
look, you've been doing this all along. You're
Yeah.
playing by the rules, and you would hope that would be the case.
You'd hope so. Definitely won't stop them, but I would hope it would make them just,
Right.
think about it first.
Yes. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so.
So you use Profit Protector Pro. What's your favorite strategy in Profit Protector Pro?
Cautious sales enhancer.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorites.
Well, when I went through the videos that you did where you went down each thing, I
Yeah,
thought, okay, that makes the most sense for most products, at least initially.
yeah,
And I spoke to you earlier about, I said, this is a huge change in Amazon from when I started. When I
yeah,
started, people thought nothing of having things in there 6 months to a year.
yeah,
And we talked about long tail items. But because of the growth that Amazon has experienced in people's inventory and so on and so forth, they've changed things so you can't do that. And that it was frustrating initially because we weren't thinking that way. But in the long run, it's proven to be a good thing. So my personal model right now is I want to turn it over in 90 days or less.
yeah,
So, which is hugely different from the very beginning. But so I keep a close eye on things, and then I want to start, getting the price down or whatever I need to do to unload it. And then I go into the Profit Protector Pro, and those items I might switch to aggressive sales
yeah,
because I need it to be messing around with it more, and I'll adjust my minimum prices and stuff like that.
yeah,
But it's really is a cool thing to have that many options.
yeah,
And the one thing that I'm aware of and I hear the most about in forums that sellers don't like in repricers is ones that are like penny, drop a penny, drop a penny, drop a penny, and then everybody races to the bottom.
yeah. So annoying. It's the worst thing, isn't it? Rules-based
It
repricing.
is. You're like, and I would love to say to people, you're not helping yourself.
No.
You're not helping anyone. On the other hand, as a long-term seller, I would say it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And one thing that you can do is just sit there and let everyone else sell out.
Mm-hmm.
let
Yeah.
them do that, and then you're sitting there.
Yeah, and you're sitting there and you take all the profit.
Right. I know my good friends that sell that don't mind listing against Amazon. That's not something I do, but I know people who do it well. They also are really, really good at reading keeper graphs.
Yeah.
Really good. And they
Yeah.
know how to play when Amazon happens to be out.
Yeah.
I just don't want to think about it. So, and
Yeah.
again, there's tons of other stuff to sell. So I don't
Yeah,
have to worry.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I think that's very, very shrewd advice, I think.
I will say this is not a get rich quick scheme.
No.
I don't find it to be really hard work, but it is work, and it takes consistent input, and consistent merchandising needs to be shipping into Amazon consistently at whatever level you're doing. And you can just build and build and build. When I decided to build up my Amazon business again after my little interlude, I talked to a good friend of mine who I respect and admire, and I said, "What do you suggest?" And I said, "Oh, I've done some PL, I've done this, I've done that." And she said, "What do you know how to do?" I said, "Online arbitrage." She says, "Then put on the blinders and do that until you get where you want to be." And that is a real hazard of this occupation, is that there's always somebody out here with the shiny up, "Hey, let's do this." And it might all be Amazon, but some different way of doing it. And I'm like, I won't even let myself look there now, because I know how to do what I'm doing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and I don't want to, until I have it at the level that I am very comfortable with consistently, I'm not going to open up to another avenue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you a strange question. So if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
If I could have a superpower,
Yeah, any superpower, what would you choose?
the ability to transport myself anywhere, anytime.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that'd be really handy, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't that? Yeah, because my
Wouldn't it, John?
grandchildren live in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's 2,300 miles from here.
Yeah, that's a long way.
It's a long way. And they moved there without asking me. Imagine.
Yeah, that way you could just like pop in for a cup of tea one afternoon, couldn't you?
Exactly.
Exactly. That would be perfect.
Exactly. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they can just be there. Yep, that'd be it.
So if you could go to dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Probably my dad.
Oh, that's nice.
4 out of 5 of us kids still live here in this little small town where we were raised and grew up. And our dad was somebody was always our go-to guy. I mean, he had an office that was his real estate business, and if you saw his car there, you'd stop in and go in and just sit down and have a chat. And even within hours after he passed away, we were all having lunch somewhere and talking about a property that he had. Well, how could we do this or that? And somebody said, Dad would know exactly how to do that. And even at my age and as old as we all are, we're like, he just always had a way. If he didn't know how to do it, he knew who to call.
Very handy man to know, yes.
Yes. Well, he was a born entrepreneur.
That's where you get it from, your dad's side.
Where I get it, absolutely.
Yeah.
And see, and that's fine. My husband is not. I want to go to work. I want to know what they want me to do, and I want to come home and be done with it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And my husband is the kind of guy, if you needed an employee and you hired him, you would be lucky, because he will always give 110%. And I'm not that person.
No.
But it's better to realize where you fit on that spectrum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Otherwise, it's just stress and worry, isn't it? Because you feel like you're not achieving what you want to achieve. If you can find your right place, then you do what's best for you, don't you?
Exactly. And I am not an employee. I just am not, because I'm forever going, well, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you do this? And that doesn't always work well in that setting.
No.
But when you're self-employed, you can try any of those ideas you want to, and you may fall right on your face, but you can do it.
Yeah. You can tweak your responsibility, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. So if you were doing this interview instead of me, what should I have asked you that I haven't asked you?
I'm not sure.
So what pearls of wisdom have you got for new Amazon sellers to leave us with?
I would just say that don't try to rush it, in the sense of, again, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. There are tons of support systems available to you, people who can help you, and definitely start out by, when you buy products, buy an inch deep and a mile wide, because those are things that will allow you to see what works for you and what doesn't. And you're not stuck. If you apparently, I have never done this, but I hear stories all the time of people who have garages full of stuff they bought hundreds of. And you're like, ooh, because that's the nice thing. Amazon doesn't require you to send in 60 of something. You can send in one of something. And a good thing to do is, if let's say you're using BuyBot Pro and you're checking it out, it looks decent, test it out. Buy 3 or 4, see how it goes, see how quickly it sells or doesn't sell, or what happens to the price. And after you do that a little while, you begin to get you get your feet wet. You begin to get a little wisdom about what works, why it does or doesn't. And you're not drowning in money you've spent with items that you can't sell.
Very good advice. Very good advice. Absolutely. Jeannie, it's been such a pleasure having you with me and chatting to you. You're a hugely experienced seller, and just having the opportunity to listen to some of your wisdom has been, I feel really privileged. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, Karen. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.